I also want to state when it comes to the war on drugs that I am infuriated with our media. I feel that the media has not done its job in faithfully reporting the war on drugs and what's been going on when it comes to the drug war. What I do know about it is that buried in the headlines is the one stark fact about all of it that stands out for me, which is that 9 out of 10 of the narco submarines manages to successfully get through. The government isn't really even making a significant impact on this when it catches a narco submarine. The government likes to brag about it when it does, but it's a conspiracy to make it look, it's a PR stunt that they're pulling to make it look like the Coast Guard has done anything useful when it comes to this, drug menace that the United States is beset by. Our government, for the record, is getting its ass handed to it. That's despite fully militarized police. What you're not being told faithfully enough by the media, which will, ultimately report on this, but the trouble with the media's reporting when it comes to the drug war is simply that too many Americans do not read anything more than the fucking headline, you know? So what you need to do is find some way of conveying that 9 out of 10 of the narco submarines penetrate in literally the headline of the article itself, you know? And it can't be anywhere else, it has to be right there, right in front of them, you know? And that's what I mean when I feel like the media isn't doing its job. It's that it's only if you start asking these questions do you start to realize that the government isn't even mounting a meaningful resistance to the drug menace or the cartels and the actions that they are taking. You know, how they are getting the drugs in the United States is with semi-submergible submarines that are very low tech and incredibly difficult to actually catch. The only way you catch one is to literally spot it. We have really, really big problems with that, and we've been having these massive ordeals of a problem with these narco subs getting into the United States pretty effectively. The government just hasn't been doing a good job at all of actually catching the narco submarines, which are incredibly difficult to actually, catch in the water. You pretty much just have to get lucky and, be right on top of one to catch it. These criminals have engineered, and the thing is that where they're, I have watched over and observed, to my horror, that where the black market, has demand for something, eventually the product itself emerges. We saw this with skimmers when it came to ATM skimmers, where people's credit cards, they put them in, they could be swiped. Well, eventually we realized that the way that the guys got caught was by returning to the scene of the crime, and so somebody got some ingenuity going on and thought, let's transmit the signals of the scammed cards over the SMS airwaves and send them to people's cell phones so that they never have to retrieve the skimmer, and just leave it in place until it gets caught. And that's what you have to do in order to actually, get away with it as much as possible, so that you're sitting, pretty on the Bahamas by the time, they actually catch the skimmer itself. And that's the reality of that. I mean, they'll hit like gas station pumps and everything, but the cops were very much so relying on the criminals to return to the scene of the crime to actually obtain it. But, of course, eventually skimmers that communicated over, text message, the same way like I'm checking my messages in my inbox that you'd get any other type of message on your device. That's how they sent the data across the network. So if the track one, track two data to, the people that would, take advantage of that. And, my horror is that demand, says laws reverse is true in a huge way, and that demand has a way of actually creating its own supply. And color me a bit horrified at SMS skimmers and everything, and the upper hand the black market got in that space, and the ingenuity that went into that, but that was the reality of things, they figured it all out, and, when it comes to this this godforsaken war on drugs, like, the submarines, eventually what you're gonna see is fully submergibles start to emerge for the cartels, and then it's gonna be really much, much, much harder to actually spot them. They have problems with conventional means of detection of detecting them. They are very stealthy, they float too close to the surface for sonar systems and, our detection systems to actually detect these things, as they move about. We just don't have good technologies for actually spotting one of them at all. And so a consequence of all this has been 9 out of 10 of them actually managed to successfully penetrate the borders, and what you have seen is a coordinated effort that the media has been complicit in to make it look like the government has done anything useful. When you see their stories about the narco subs that do get caught, what is so privately horrifying about all of it is that while they will brag to a huge extent about what they've done and walk away from it feeling euphoric about catching one of them. The trouble of the matter is that what you're not seeing is that there's another 9 of them that have gotten through, and that piece of data and knowledge has not been conveyed in the headline of the articles that you read and the videos that you watch about the topic. That's where the data needs to be in order to reach as wide of an audience as possible, because the wider audience has a really strong tendency to not read beyond the headline. The media has not been doing its job well about this drug war. Most Americans remain blissfully asleep to their government getting its ass kicked on this one.